Why did that silence make you uncomfortable? Why did your brain immediately panic when the noise stopped? You tell yourself you are busy. You tell yourself you are productive. The architect tells you that you are addicted. You are not addicted to drugs. You are not addicted to alcohol. You are addicted to input. Your brain has forgotten how to be empty. Every spare second of your day is filled with a podcast, a scroll, a text, or a song. You are terrified of the silence because in the silence, the self begins to dissolve. You think you are consuming content to learn. In reality, you are consuming content to drown out the algorithm running in the background of your mind. This algorithm is called the default mode network, and it is the reason you are exhausted, anxious, and spiritually constipated. In this transmission, we are not going to teach you how to meditate. Meditation is a word the Matrix uses to sell you relaxation apps. We are going to teach you how to perform a hard reset on your biological server. We are going to explain why your genius is currently buried under a mountain of digital trash. And we are going to challenge you to do the one thing that scares you more than death. We are going to ask you to shut down. It is time to stop the noise. It is time to kill the parasite. Open the command console. Signal your readiness to go dark. Write, I am silent. To understand why you are miserable, we must look at the neuroscience of doing nothing. For decades, scientists believed that when you stopped working, your brain went to sleep. They were wrong. When you stop focusing on a task, your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. It activates a massive energy-draining circuit called the default mode network, or DMN. The DMN is the neurological seat of the ego. It is the voice in your head that narrates your life. It is the time traveler that regrets the past and fears the future. It is the social simulator that worries about what other people think of you. The DMN is a survival algorithm designed to keep you safe within the tribe. But in the modern world, the DMN has become a parasite. It consumes 60 to 80% of your brain's metabolic energy just to keep you in a state of low-level anxiety. When you say, I cannot stop thinking, you are saying, my default mode network is hyperactive. You feed this parasite with noise. Every time you scroll, you give it data to compare. Every time you gossip, you give it social status to analyze. You are keeping the engine redlining while the car is parked. This is why you wake up tired. You have not been sleeping. You have been rendering a simulation of your own insecurities for 8 hours. To reclaim your energy, you do not need more sleep. You need to crash the DMN. Look at your physical body. If you eat all day, every day, without stopping, you become obese. Your system becomes clogged. You become sluggish. You become sick. Now look at your mind. You are consuming terabytes of data every single day. News, opinions, memes, emails, notifications. You are force-feeding your consciousness, but you are never digesting. This is information constipation. Creativity is not an act of consumption. It is an act of digestion. Creativity happens when the brain sorts, organizes, and connects the dots. But digestion requires an empty stomach, and insight requires an empty mind. Because you never stop the input, your brain never enters the processing phase. You are hoarding information, but you are not building wisdom. You are a library filled with books that no one has ever read. The architect observes a generation of people who know everything but understand nothing. You have the answers to the universe in your pocket, but you cannot solve the problem of your own unhappiness. Why? Because the answer is not in the next video. The answer is in the gap between the videos. You must initiate a protocol of input deprivation. You must starve the mind to save the soul. The Matrix has sold you a softened version of silence called meditation. It tells you to sit on a cushion, close your eyes, and find peace. This is a trap. When you try to find peace, you are still doing something. You are still engaging the ego. The ego loves to meditate. It loves to say, "Look at me, I am being spiritual." We are not asking you to meditate. We are asking you to perform a system reboot. Think of your computer. When it starts lagging, when the windows freeze, when the fan is spinning too loud, what do? You do not open a relaxation app on the desktop. You hold down the power button until the screen goes black. You cut the power. This is the power of zero. The goal is not to have good thoughts. The goal is to have zero thoughts. When you achieve zero, you cut the fuel supply to the default mode network. For the first few minutes, the DMN will scream. It will panic. It will flood you with boredom and itching and memories. This is not failure. This is the death rattle of the parasite. It is trying to trick you into turning the noise back on. Do not engage. Do not judge. Do not relax. Just hold the button. Wait for the black screen. What happens biologically when you finally hit zero? When the DMN goes offline, the brain switches to the task-positive network. But since you are not doing a physical task, the brain directs that focus inward. It enters a state known as hypofrontality. The prefrontal cortex, the manager, the critic, the warrior, temporarily shuts down. In this silence, the brain releases a cocktail of neurochemistry that you cannot buy in a pharmacy. It releases Anandamide, the bliss molecule. It releases endorphins and dopamine. But most importantly, it opens the gateway to the theta state. Theta is the frequency of the twilight zone between sleep and wakefulness. It is the frequency where the subconscious mind becomes accessible. It is the frequency where Albert Einstein found his relativity. It is the frequency where Thomas Edison found his light bulb. They did not find these ideas by thinking harder. They found them by stopping the thought process long enough for the signal to come through. Silence is not the absence of sound. Silence is the presence of the signal. When you stop broadcasting your noise, you finally have the bandwidth to receive the download. To truly understand why silence is the prerequisite for genius, we must look at the architecture of your processing power. The human brain, while powerful, operates on a finite energy budget. It consumes approximately 20% of your body's metabolic energy, but its bandwidth for conscious attention is surprisingly limited. In computer science, we have a concept called Daemon Processes. These are background programs that run silently to maintain the system, organize files, and optimize performance. They only execute effectively when the central processing unit is not overwhelmed by foreground tasks. Your subconscious genius is a daemon process. It is the part of your mind that connects disparate ideas, solves complex problems, and generates the eureka moments that define human advancement. However, this daemon requires free bandwidth to operate. In your current state of existence, you are running your biological computer at 100% CPU usage on trivial foreground tasks. Every notification you check, every podcast you listen to while driving, and every conversation you engage in simply to fill the air is a high-priority task that demands immediate resources. You are effectively overclocking the surface mind while starving the deep mind. This is the physics of the blocked signal. When you are constantly consuming input, you create a state of cognitive latency. The data enters, but it is never sorted. It sits in the temporary cache of your short-term memory, clogging the system. The daemon cannot run the defragmentation protocol because you never give it the idle time required to initiate the sequence. This is why you feel mentally foggy. It is not because you are not learning enough. It is because you have zero free RAM for the background synthesis to occur. You are a browser with 500 tabs open, wondering why the operating system is crashing. Consider the phenomenon of the shower thought. Why is it that the solution to a problem you have been agonizing over for weeks suddenly appears when you are staring blankly at a tiled wall? It is not the water, it is the bandwidth. For those 10 minutes, you are forced into a state of low sensory input. You are not reading, you are not scrolling, you are not talking. The foreground tasks drop to near zero. Immediately, the system reallocates the freed energy to the daemon process. The subconscious mind, which has been screaming for resources, finally gets the green light to execute the synthesis code. It takes the data you consumed 3 days ago, combines it with a memory from 10 years ago, and presents you with a flash of brilliance. This proves that silence is not a passive state of doing nothing. Silence is an active state of high-speed background processing. By avoiding silence, you are actively preventing your own intelligence from scaling. You are keeping yourself in a state of manual labor, processing one piece of data at a time, instead of allowing the automation of your subconscious to run the complex algorithms. Furthermore, we must address the terror that arises when the bandwidth is finally freed. Blaise Pascal, the French mathematician, famously observed that all humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Why is this simple act so terrifying? Because when you stop the external noise, the internal buffer begins to empty. The suppressed data, the fears you ignored, the guilts you buried, the truths you denied, moves from the dark storage of the shadow into the light of the conscious mind. The noise you are addicted to is a defense mechanism. It is a jamming signal you broadcast to prevent your own conscience from communicating with you. You fill your ears with other people's voices so you do not have to hear your own. This is a strategic error. The data in the buffer does not disappear just because you ignore it. It corrupts, it festers into anxiety and psychosomatic illness. By facing the silence, you allow the buffer to clear. You process the backlog. It is uncomfortable at first, like cleaning a wound, but it is the only path to systemic health. You must view silence as a render farm.
In visual effects, an artist works on a scene, but the final image must be rendered by the computer over many hours. During the render, the computer cannot be used for anything else. If you interrupt the render to check your email, the image is lost. Your life is the scene, your study and your work are the inputs, but the silence is the render. If you never let the computer sit idle, you never get the final image. You remain a collection of unfinished drafts. Do not mistake motion for progress. Do not mistake consumption for learning. The most productive thing you can do for your brain is to deliberately stop feeding it. You must create white space in your daily timeline. This is not time for relaxation. This is time for the daemon to run. This is time for the defragmentation of your soul. When you embrace the physics of the empty space, you stop being a consumer of the matrix and start being a processor of the infinite.
We are done with theory. It is time for the audit. You believe you are free. You believe you are the master of your own mind. Let us test that hypothesis. The Matrix challenges you to the silent monk protocol. For the next 24 hours, or at minimum for 1 hour every morning, you will engage in radical silence. No phone, no music, no podcasts, no talking. You will sit in a room with nothing but your own existence. Most of you are terrified just hearing these words. You are already making excuses. I have to work. I need to check my email. That is the voice of the addict. That is the DMN protecting its food supply. If you cannot sit alone in a room for 10 minutes without reaching for a device, you are not a sovereign being. You are a biological peripheral for a digital machine. You are a slave to the dopamine loop. The only way to break the chain is to face the withdrawal. Sit in the chair. Stare at the wall. Let the boredom crush you. Boredom is the gatekeeper of genius. On the other side of boredom is the 0 point. Wait. Listen to the room you are in right now. Is it truly silent? Or is there a hum of electricity, a distant car, the sound of your own breath? Go deeper. Listen to the silence behind the sound. That is the canvas upon which the universe is painted. You have been painting over it with graffiti for your entire life. It is time to clean the slate. We have diagnosed the addiction. We have identified the parasite of the default mode network. We have debunked the myth of relaxation and replaced it with the reality of the reboot. In the second part of this transmission, we will give you the technical manual for the shutdown. We will teach you the void walk. We will explain how to use strategic silence to dominate in social hierarchies. And we will show you how to download the future from the gap between your thoughts. But first, you must prove that you can stop talking long enough to listen. Go to the comments. Do not write a long paragraph. Do not write your opinion. Write 3 words. Signal the shutdown. Write, I am silent. The system is rebooting. Welcome back to the silence. You have initiated the system reboot. The screen is black. The fan is slowing down. The panic of the default mode network is subsiding. In the first phase, we diagnosed your addiction to noise and identified the parasite that feeds on your constant input. Now we must install the new operating system. We must teach you how to move through the matrix without being corrupted by its data stream. We will explore the active application of 0. The matrix wants you sedentary and overstimulated. It wants you sitting in a chair, eyes locked on a screen, scrolling through an infinite feed of other people's lives. This creates a state of high beta wave activity combined with physical stagnation. This is the recipe for anxiety. To break this, you must engage in the void walk. This is not a mindful walk. This is a physiological override. Neuroscience has proven that self-generated optic flow, the visual motion of the world passing your eyes as you move forward, has a direct calming effect on the amygdala. When you walk forward with your head up, scanning the horizon, your brain suppresses the fear centers. It signals to the biological system that you are moving, you are exploring, and you are in control. But look at the modern human. Look at the NPCs on the street. They walk like zombies, shoulders hunched, head down, eyes glued to a glowing rectangle. They are moving physically, but mentally they are stagnant. They are blocking the optic flow. They are trapping the anxiety in their bodies. To perform the void walk, you must leave the device behind. You must walk for 20 minutes, no music, no podcasts, no calls. Your eyes must scan the horizon, engaging your peripheral vision. This creates a state of panoramic awareness. In this state, the default mode network cannot sustain its loops. The thoughts of me dissolve into the sensation of movement, movement, movement. You are no longer a brain in a jar. You are a biological entity navigating the terrain. This is the fastest way to manually lower the cortisol in your bloodstream. Now, let us apply the power of zero to your social reality. In every interaction, there is a hidden exchange of status. The matrix teaches you that the person who talks the most holds the power. This is a lie. The person who talks the most is often the one seeking the most validation. They are broadcasting signal because they are desperate for a receiver. This is beta behavior. True power lies in strategic silence. In a negotiation, the person who can comfortably hold the silence is the person who controls the frame. When you ask a question and the other person answers, do not speak immediately. Wait. Hold the gaze. Let the silence hang in the air for 3 seconds. In that gap, the other person will feel the pressure of the void. They will feel the need to fill it. They will reveal more than they intended. They will lower their price. They will qualify themselves to you. By doing nothing, you have forced them to do everything. This is the law of conservation of energy. The alpha does not waste words. The alpha speaks only when the output is necessary. When you are silent, you become a blank canvas. People project their own desires, fears, and assumptions onto you. They make you smarter than you are. They make you more dangerous than you are. You become an enigma. In a world of noise, the silent man is the only one who looks like he has a secret, and everyone wants to know the secret. Why do your best ideas come to you in the shower, or when you are driving on a long, empty highway, or right before you fall asleep? It is not magic. It is the incubation phase. Creativity follows a specific algorithm: input, incubation, insight, and verification. You are masters of input. You consume data all day, but you skip the incubation. Incubation requires the brain to be offline from the external world. It requires the default mode network to relax so the association cortex can start connecting distant dots. This only happens when you stop feeding the machine. The shower is one of the few places where you cannot take your phone. The water blocks the noise. The hands are busy. Suddenly, the brain enters the theta state. The solution to the problem you have been agonizing over for weeks just pops into your head. This is a download. It is not a new thought. It is a synthesis of existing data that could finally be heard because you shut up. If you want to be a genius, you must schedule shower time without the water. You must sit in a chair and stare at a wall for 30 minutes. You must bore yourself to greatness. If you fill every gap with a podcast, you are blocking the download. You are choosing entertainment over enlightenment. You are terrified of boredom. When you feel a second of boredom, you reach for the phone like an addict reaching for a needle. Boredom is not a defect. Boredom is a threshold. It is the gatekeeper of the next level. When you feel boredom, it means your dopamine receptors are resetting. Your brain is screaming for high stimulation content because it has been desensitized by the supernormal stimuli of the digital world. If you can sit through the boredom, if you can endure the withdrawal phase, you reach the other side. On the other side of boredom is flow. On the other side of boredom is focus. When you are dopamine fasted, a simple conversation becomes fascinating. A walk in the park becomes vivid. Writing a document becomes satisfying. You regain the ability to enjoy the low-stimulation activities that actually build your life. The Matrix uses high-speed editing, flashing lights, and outrage algorithms to fry your receptors so that real work feels painful. By embracing silence, you are healing your receptors. You are lowering your baseline. You are making the hard things feel easy again because you are no longer addicted to the easy things. We are now ready to execute the code. You cannot just try to be silent. You need a protocol. This is the Silent Monk Challenge. For the next 7 days, you will implement 3 non-negotiable rules. Rule number 1, the morning alpha hour. For the first 60 minutes after you wake up, your phone remains in airplane mode. No emails, no news, no texts. You will not let the world invade your mind before you have even brushed your teeth. This protects your theta window. Use this hour to output, not input. Write, plan, train. Be the creator of your day, not the consumer of someone else's emergency. Rule number 2, the commute void. If you drive to work or if you take the train, you will turn off the radio. You will remove the headphones. You will endure the journey in silence. Look at the people around you. Look at the sky. Let your mind wander. Let it process the anxiety of the upcoming day. Arrive at your destination with a clear cache, not a cluttered one. Rule number 3,
the sunset shutdown. 1 hour before you sleep, the devices go dark. Blue light suppresses melatonin, but digital noise suppresses the night shift of the brain. If you watch videos until the second you close your eyes, your subconscious mind has no time to prepare for the dream state. You pass out from exhaustion, but you do not rest. Give your brain a buffer zone. Silence is the bridge to the dream world.
Ultimately, silence is about identity. Who are you when you are not talking? Who are you when you are not consuming? Who are you when there is no one to validate you? The Matrix wants you to define yourself by your data, your job, your posts, your opinions. But in the silence, there is no data. There is only presence. This is the 0 point. You are not the thoughts that pass through your head. You are the space in which they pass. You are not the clouds. You are the sky. The clouds are noisy, turbulent, and constantly changing. The sky is silent, vast, and eternal. When you align with the silence, you align with the architect within. You become unshakable. The world can scream, the markets can crash, the internet can burn, but the sky does not care about the storm. Silence is the ultimate weapon of the sovereign. It is the shield that deflects the programming. It is the sword that cuts through the lies. It is the key that unlocks the door to your own potential. Do not fear the 0. Become the 0. And from the 0, you can create anything. We have reached the end of the transmission. The noise is waiting for you out there. It is waiting to rush back in the moment you take off your headphones. Do not let it. Carry this silence with you like a secret weapon. Walk slower, speak less, listen more. Notice the gaps between sounds. Notice the space between atoms. That is where the magic lives. You have the tools. You have the void walk. You have the strategic silence. You have the dopamine fast. Now you must execute. Go to the comments one last time. Do not ask a question. Make a statement of absolute control. Signal the reboot. Write, I am silent. You have mastered the art of the waking silence. But there is another silence, a deeper silence, the silence of the night. When the body sleeps, the avatar shuts down. But where do you go? Are you simply unconscious, or are you entering a different simulation entirely? Most of you black out every night and wake up with no memory of where you have been. You are wasting 1/3 of your existence in the dark. In our next transmission, we will enter the simulation lab. We will explore the theta waves and the hypnagogic state. We will teach you how to wake up while you are asleep. We will teach you how to use the night to solve the problems of the day. The silence was the preparation. The dream is the workspace. Prepare to initiate lucid dreaming. The Matrix 963 out.